Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Snohomish County Forum for the candidates for City of Marysville Council Position 1. I'm your moderator, Karen Madsen. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters and past president of the League as well. Our candidates tonight for City of Marysville Council Position 1 are Cindy Gobel, Daniel Brady, and Jeffrey Vaughan. The League thanks the candidates for running for office, for their willingness to serve the community if elected, and for participating in this forum. And we thank KSER Radio for airing the forum. As a reminder, it's a priority of the League to be nonpartisan. Therefore, we neither endorse nor oppose candidates or parties. We do take positions on issues which we've studied and upon which we've reached consensus. Ground rules for this forum were sent ahead of time to all the candidates. For our listeners, let me briefly explain the question and answer period rules. The questions for the forum have not been shared with the candidates. They're designed as an introduction to each candidate's qualification and strengths. I will pose the questions one at a time. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to respond to each question. There are a total of 4 questions. The fourth question will allow a 90-second response. We're using a timekeeping application being run by League member Bob Kramer. The countdown timer is visible to all candidates. It shows elapsed time and notifies the candidate by changing color when there are 15 seconds left and when time is up. Time limits on answers will be strictly enforced. When you see the timer turn red and you hear the chime, you need to be done with your answer. The order of questions. I'll change the starting order for each question, rotating through all the candidates. The order was determined in advance by the moderator and the forum manager using a method to ensure a random and fair sequence. The order for the first question will be Ms. Gobel, then Mr. Brady, and finally, Mr. Vaughan. And then from there forward, we'll rotate through that order. So first up on this question, Ms. Gobel, with a minute to answer. What are the major responsibilities of this office, and what skills are needed to perform them well?
Oh, okay. The major responsibilities for this office are to enact policy and represent our community members. So that means you're working with the city executive board, the legislators, and community members to ensure that our community goals and priorities are identified and followed through with. So a little bit about what the council does. The members do create laws and regulations, they levy taxes, they provide for public safety and health, they authorize public improvements, they appropriately spend and borrow money, they act in a quasi-judicial role, and they confirm appointments and provide oversight. So a little bit about me in that role and how I qualify for that was, I do belong to many groups in Marysville, and I've heard people say that housing and development and growth are what we need to be looking at.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gobel. Mr. Brady, you're up next, 60 seconds.
Thank you. So the major responsibilities of office are just like Ms. Gobel said, including, providing public safety for everyone, other side of other branches. That's also a big thing that brought me here to run, is to make sure everything's running in a good and appropriate manner, with the public forums, being part of commissions, working well with the executive branch and the mayor to make sure that everything runs as smoothly as possible. And I think the best traits to have are leadership capabilities, effective communication, and effective community engagement. As a union organizer and an activist and canvasser for political and presidential campaigns, I've really worked to engage with the community and get local grassroots outreach to make sure that we can enact change from the bottom up. And that's why I'm running. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. And Mr. Vaughan.
Thank you. This office is really important in terms of safeguarding our citizens. Public safety is a big priority. Also encouraging economic vitality through local employment and also retail opportunities. We also are responsible for providing adequate infrastructure, whether it's reducing traffic congestion, making sure that our utilities are serving the needs of our city, and making sure that those infrastructure items are not outpaced by growth. And that's a big part of what we do in setting policy and working with the various city departments on those things. And lastly, another really important thing is that as a city council member, you swear an oath to the Constitution of the United States of America and also of our state. And so protecting the individual rights of our citizens is very important as well.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughan. On to the second question. Mr. Brady, you'll lead off on this one, followed by Mr. Vaughan and then Ms. Gobel. What are the 2 or 3 major issues that need to be addressed by the Marysville City Council?
Well, I think first off is what we need to really address is the traffic situation. And secondly is the repeal of the marijuana shop ban within the city. We have been running into budget issues, especially with COVID. Everyone's been hit really hard with that. And if we opened up a shop or 2 in Marysville, we could take a lot more tax revenue in and really help this city off on the right foot. And that's really what I think are the top 2 priorities that I'd like to do, but also public safety is very critical with fire and schools and the police. Also, social justice is a very big thing for me. So I will always fight for an equitable society for all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Vaughan?
Well, the 3 big priorities as I see it facing the city of Marysville right now, number 1 has to do with growth, and there's a tremendous amount of growth happening in the city. It's an actually really exciting time because we've opened up the north end of our city to employers, and we are slated to have close to 20,000 jobs coming into the area over the next several years. And so it's an exciting time for that. We need to have a real focus on our infrastructure, meeting the transportation needs that come with growth, and ensuring that our quality of life isn't degraded as our city does progress and grow through time. We also, another big priority that's been a priority of mine since I've been on council is keeping the tax burden low on our citizens, and I'll continue to do that. And lastly, making sure that public safety is fully funded and that those who protect us have the resources they need to be effective and successful.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughan. And finally on this question, Ms. Gobel.
Thank you. It's interesting to hear the other 2, and because I have a different perspective in that I really think that right now Marysville should be looking at being inclusive and equitable in regards to our community. And I'm excited to see the new diversity council and the work that they're going to do this year. And I'm excited to see that change happening. We've had some struggles here recently, and I think that's important. And I think it's important for the council to acknowledge that and help it move ahead. With some of the other topics, you know, I definitely think the transportation and congestion is a high priority. We experience more heavy traffic every year. I just can't imagine that 1 train overpass is going to be enough for us if we're looking 20 years out into the future. And I'd like to see an increase in some of the services that are provided locally. Meaning that, like, if you have Apple Healthcare, you're not going to find a provider right now that's going to take a new client. If you're looking for subsidized housing or domestic violence or drug addiction services.
Thank you, Ms. Gobel. Thank you very much. The third question, this time, Mr. Vaughan, you'll lead off. This is another 60-second answer response. What qualifications and experience make you a strong candidate?
Well, I started out as a citizen here in Marysville, concerned about some things in the community having to do with taxation and land use. I got involved, volunteered on some committees, and eventually decided to run for city council. I have a history as a city council member. You can see that I've been consistent in making sure that our tax burden is kept as low as possible, and also in making sure that things like traffic congestion are addressed. A number of new transportation projects have been brought forward and funded, and that's because of consistent effort year after year working with our partners and our legislators to help make sure that those things are funded. And so I've actually been doing those things, and I think those uniquely qualify me in this position. You can see my record and see the success that I've had in bringing about those successes.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughan. Ms. Gobel.
Thank you. Well, I am a big part of the community, and I've heard a lot of things. I'm a big collaborator, so I enjoy asking people for input and ideas. My first career was law enforcement, so I am familiar with that job and the importance that it has within our community. I would like to see our embedded social worker program expanded. My second career is in elections, so I love it when people vote. Go vote. But I also think that it's a great way to see the pulse of the community. I hope to encourage that more in this position, in their participation. I have a bachelor's in human services, a master's in adult education, and a law degree from Seattle U. So if I can't explain it, I'm in trouble. You know, excited. I've been here my whole life through my family. So it's great to be a part of Marysville, and I'm looking forward to taking a position of leadership in here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gobel. Mr. Brady.
Thank you. So as a first-time candidate, you know, I can't sit here and say that I've been doing it for a long time or anything else like that. But what I can say is with my activism and engagement with the union halls, around being a volunteer for wetlands and sanctuaries around here, and just being an everyday citizen to where we can have a larger working class voice in the city council. I understand that there's 7 positions and there's a lot that we need to do to work together. And I think greater voices of the working class will work well in tandem with everyone else that's already on the city council. Since 1980, the city's quintupled in size, and we need a forward-thinking city council, and we need a new voice at city council, and that's why I'm running, is to be the change. After I moved to this city, which I've lived in Snohomish County for over 40 years, my children are 5th generation in Snohomish County. I take a lot of pride in coming from here, and I want to make and enact positive change and be the change in where I live and my community for everyone involved. And so I guess that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. Appreciate it. And we've come to the last question. Remember, please, that this is the one where you have 90 seconds. The timer should reflect that. And we'll lead off with Ms. Gobel, go to Mr. Brady, and Mr. Vaughan will bring it home. What have we neglected to ask, or what would you like to add to the conversation that's happened already? What do you want to bring to our attention? 90 seconds.
Oh my gosh. Okay. What I'd like to bring to your attention is that, you know, in Marysville, we've seen a lot of growth. We've seen some development, but we keep hearing that it's not enough. We keep hearing that there's more that should be done, or why hasn't this project been finished yet? Like beautifying downtown or creating a downtown. And I really think that it's time to really address that. If we're the 2nd biggest city in this county, like Mayor Nearing said, we really need to look at our foundation. We need to look at the services we're providing or not providing, and we need to start developing those and making sure that people don't have to leave our community to go get healthcare or get services for addiction or go to the theater or see some music, that kind of thing. I know we have the Opera House, but our arts program is very limited. Most of us in Marysville are going somewhere else to get our happiness, to do the fun things. And we need to bring that to Marysville. We're amazing here. We have the capability of developing the city that we want, but it's time for us to start doing that. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Gobel. Mr. Brady.
Could you please repeat the question real quick? I just want to.
Of course, be happy to. What have we neglected to ask you? What would you like to bring to our attention, or anything you'd like to respond to in what's happened in the conversation so far?
Well, basically, I would like to talk about a few things. The issues facing the city. I think Ms. Gobel did really touch on it real quick about having a more inclusive society. That's one thing I really want to push for too. Also, with what Ms. Gobel said about looking elsewhere for happiness. We do need to bring that into Marysville, and we need to focus on creating the downtown, but also keeping the historical value, of still being the strawberry city, and having that old town feel in downtown. sitting right next to this huge city hall that's being built with all the work, you know. So we really need to work in and how we can work on getting all that kind of together and to build for the future. You know, I really think that transportation wasn't really touched on too much, you know, because I think our 5-year plan is good, but I really think that it should have been done 5 years ago, you know, and that's really what we're pushing for. And to help expedite these changes that we need to do for our infrastructure is to repeal the marijuana shop ban. We can bring a lot of extra tax revenue in and dump it directly into transportation and infrastructure to help expedite this. It won't cost any money to anyone except someone who wants to buy marijuana, of which they need to leave the city to go do. You know, I think that that's a real good concrete plan to help expedite the infrastructure needs that are facing the city today and to help move us into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. And Mr. Vaughan, you have the last word.
Thank you. I think it's really important to look at the total plan and what's been happening in our city. And it's really easy to say that we need to reduce traffic congestion. We need to make our city safer. But what I think needs to be said is we need to talk about what we've actually done and the progress that we've made. And there's been tremendous progress. When I first moved into Marysville, a lot of the shopping or other things that our family would have to do, we would have to leave the city to do that. One of the things I was involved in early in my council time was helping to bring new opportunities to the city in terms of retail shopping. That was an initial wave of things that happened, along with revitalizing our downtown and making our downtown a place that people will go and shop and stay and recreate. And you see that with the waterfront park and some of the other improvements that are happening. And it's just going to get better from here. And then the other thing that's a really major accomplishment, there was close to 600 or 800 acres in the north end that was slated to be homes in Snohomish County. And when we annexed that part of the city, we decided that that was not, that we didn't want the urban sprawl, but we wanted to not only live and shop in Marysville, but to be able to work in Marysville. And so now that land up there is now being converted into businesses that will employ many of us in the future. And so I'm very excited about that.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughan. I want to give all these candidates a great big thank you for joining us this evening and for running for office. A recording of this forum will be available on the League of Women Voters of Snohomish County website and YouTube channel and will be aired on KSER 90.7 FM. You can find the full schedule of candidate forums at lwvsnoho.org. Look for the candidate forums tab in the voting menu. We encourage you to explore additional information about these and about all candidates. The Snohomish County voter pamphlet will be mailed to residences starting July 14th. Your primary election ballots will be mailed to you on July 15th, and Election Day is August 3rd. Please vote by mailing your ballots or by dropping them in a designated ballot box. Early voting is encouraged. This concludes this candidate forum. Thank you all for joining us.